Hey guys, how's it going? It's your host with the most, the one and only, and today we're going to go over a lot of stuff that was introduced at WWDC 2021, affectionately dubbed dubdub. Get it? Now there's a lot of disappointments. I know a lot of people felt like they wasted their time watching the keynote, but there are a lot of interesting new improvements to the OS across a wide variety of Apple's products, including iOS, iPadOS, macOS, and a ton of other new health features. But before we get into it, consider dropping a like on this video as it helps out my channel out tremendously, and make sure to hit that red subscribe button for more future tech content just like this. We can't waste any time, guys. Let's jump right into it. Alright guys, we have a ton, and I mean a ton of stuff to go over. Now it would be almost impossible, or at least the video would be 45 minutes long if I were to go in detail as to every single new feature. In this video, I'm only going to go over the features that I believe are going to be the most noteworthy and the features that I think people will find most useful. Now before we start, yes, huge bummer. There was no hardware announcements despite all the rumors that were running rampant on Twitter. You see, over on Twitter, it was almost guaranteed that we would see a new redesigned 14-inch MacBook Pro and a new 16-inch redesigned MacBook Pro as well. But those never came to fruition. Maybe we'll see those redesigns a bit later on in the year. But we're gonna jump straight into iOS 15. There's a ton of new neat improvements going on here. Now, this event primarily was centered around privacy, and it's a good thing. I'm glad Apple is a company that keeps our privacy at the forefront, not like others such as Facebook, whose whole business model, or at least the majority of it, bases itself around selling your information. But we'll get into the privacy stuff a little bit later. First, let's dive into the new improvements to FaceTime. So there's this one application that me and my girlfriend like to use called AirTime. Now, before iOS 15, what you had to do was download a separate app if you kind of wanted to go into a party room, as I call it. In these party rooms, you're able to basically FaceTime video record with someone else while also enjoying media content. For example, on AirTime, I could hop on with my girlfriend and just start watching some YouTube together at the same time. It would sync the video together so that both of us could watch it at the same time. But now, Apple has decided to completely kill off those apps just like they usually do. Apple is not new at killing off some of the competition. Like one of the biggest examples, does anyone remember the days where we had to download a flashlight app in order to use a flashlight on our iPhones? Well, now, obviously, it's embedded into our software and we don't need those applications anymore. Cue in the new improvements to FaceTime. So one of the new features is called SharePlay, and it's exactly what I just described. Using SharePlay, you'll be able to jump in with another person or a group of other people on FaceTime, and you'll be able to send over music, movies, videos, any form of entertainment that you can really imagine, and then you'll be able to watch it real time with your audience. It's really cool. So say for example, you've been stuck on the latest show on Apple TV, you'll be able to FaceTime your friend, your mom, your child, and watch directly with them without them physically being present. And this is a powerful, and I mean powerful, way to interact with your loved ones. It's really fun, it really brings everyone together, and I'm really excited of all the ways and the endless opportunities that people are going to use SharePlay with. I, for example, am definitely going to hop on with the boys and go over some COD training. You already know we take our Call of Duty seriously. And it's not just media you can share, you can actually mirror your own screen and share your screen with the rest of your audience. That way, if you want to show someone how to get to the next level on an Apple Arcade game, you could do so by sharing your screen and everyone is watching in real time, which I think is really cool. Even with music, everyone will be able to listen along to the newest and latest albums by your favorite artist, and everyone will even be able to queue up another song coming up. That way everyone has the aux cord in a sense. Now, I'm not sure how many times people are going to get cut off the aux by not playing bangers, but we'll just have to wait and see. It is an interesting feature that I'm very, very excited about. Another cool improvement is spatial audio. So now the voices of the people you're interacting with will actually sound in a kind of three-dimensional shape, kind of like spatial audio currently works on existing Apple Music songs. So that way, if someone is moving around in the FaceTime video, the spatial audio will adjust and that audio will be able to track that person. That way it sounds at least a little more immersive. And now portrait mode makes its way onto FaceTime, but I'm not exactly sure how useful this will be. It's purely aesthetic, and what the system will do is it'll basically blur the background so that the focus is on your primary subject. Again, for pictures it's nice, but on FaceTime I don't really know if it's that big of a deal. After all, when you're on FaceTime, you don't really mind what's going on in the background unless it's something really noisy. And now going off the spatial audio, we now have voice isolation, which I think is a really neat feature. Apple demonstrated with a demo having someone come in with a leaf blower while someone was on a FaceTime call, and obviously you're gonna hear the really loud noise of that leaf blower in the background. Well, now with voice isolation, like magic, you're only able to hear that person's voice, and the voice isolation works immaculately, at least from what we saw in that demo. So then that way, if you have a lot of conversation going on in the background, or you just have some really loud background noise, voice isolation will really focus itself on the person's voice who's talking. That way you're able to enjoy your FaceTime call a bit better. And now we have FaceTime links, which I think is really gnarly, because for the first time ever, it seems like Apple is really now expanding and allowing third-party and competitor brands to be able to utilize Apple software. So now with FaceTime links, even if someone doesn't have an iPhone, you can shoot anyone a link, they'll be able to click on it and now join a FaceTime call with you, which I think is super dope. And I know all of my Android friends are gonna be really excited about joining my FaceTime calls. That way I can keep up with them. And now moving on to iMessage, everyone's beloved messaging app. There were some pretty cool tweaks and improvements announced, but nothing really major. We have this new feature now called Shared With You. So now with links, images, and other content shared with you on iMessage, they will be featured in a separate section called Shared With You. And so with this feature, say for example, you went on vacation with a couple of your buddies or friends. If you have a group chat, or if you're just talking directly with that one person and say they were to share some media with you, all of that will populate on your Shared With You so that you're able to actually review everything all in one place. It's really neat, and it cleans up a lot of the clutter on iMessage. We all have that friend who constantly sends us memes and really just clutters up the whole messaging feed. And so with Shared With You, the system will intelligently identify which photos are important and pertinent to you. That way, if someone just sends you a couple dozen memes, they won't populate in your Shared With You section, only if the system can recognize if you are actually there and if it's an important picture that features you in it. Shared With You is built into iMessages, into Photos, into Apple News, Apple Music, Apple Podcasts, and the Apple TV app, so it's accessible from really just about anywhere. There are also the new mandatory and obligatory new outfits to MeMojis. I personally don't really use my MeMoji all that much, but I know there are people who really dig the MeMojis and really like the customization. For those people, you'll have some included outfits as well as additional accessories. Also in iMessage, going back to my previous point about photos and sharing photos with your friends, Photo Collections now features multiple photos in iMessage all at once as a collage. Again, how many times have you had someone just send you multiple photos and you have to keep scrolling through about 20, 25, sometimes even 30 photos to view all of them? This kind of solves that and makes the UI a lot cleaner with that collage. You can tap to view them all as a grid or a quick tap back, and you'll easily be able to add the desired photos you want straight onto your photo album. We're gonna move right along and now talk about focus. It's basically do not disturb on steroids. How many times have you been in the zone working on a project, maybe working on some homework, or actually working at your job, and now a pile of notifications now are distracting you away from your focus on your job or your schoolwork? You know it's happened to you before, we're all guilty of it, and it happens, but at least now with focus mode, you'll be able to actually cater your notifications to what you want go through and what you don't want to go through. That way, your focus isn't broken. Focus helps you stay in the moment when you're wanting to concentrate. That way notifications such as game notifications, iMessages, social media notifications, or anything in between don't disturb you while you're trying to get something done. You can pick from a list of suggested focus options, or you can create your own. For example, some of the focus modes that are already included include things such as while you're working out, while you're driving, while you're studying, or while you're gaming. That way you don't have any unwanted notifications going in and you're needing to get something done. And speaking of notifications, they have been redesigned to be a lot cleaner. Notifications now have a better, more fluid-like look, including contact photos and larger app icons to make them easier to identify. And what I think is personally cool, combining elements of focus and notifications, you'll be able to get a huge stack of notifications at your own desired time. So if you don't want to be disturbed, say around lunchtime, you can set your notifications to all come in after work. For example, let's just say you get out at 5 p.m. You can actually set the software to have all your notifications come in a nice and fluid and concise manner so that you can go through every notification that is most important to you in a really nice, clean package. I believe with this, iMessages are excluded. That way you don't miss an important message from a loved one or family member. Now, another big focus at WWDC 2021 was something that I thought could use some refining, and that's maps. So with maps, my thing was always that, especially while driving, it was very easy to miss, say, an exit or miss a turn just because the system wasn't able to really give you a clear idea of where it was you were going. Siri used to tell you things like taking a right turn at 500 feet away, and yet there's a massive monument right in the middle stopping you from taking that turn. It made no sense. So now with maps, you'll have an all-new city experience, and it's very detailed and looks amazing. With the all-new city experience, you'll be able to explore cities with unprecedented detail for roads, sidewalks, neighborhoods, trees, buildings, anything you can really think of. You'll be able to visit amazing 3D landmarks that look phenomenal from what I saw. And it'll even feature a dark mode, so I think that'll be really nice for big cities and especially for tourists just trying to explore. And it doesn't end there, as with driving features, all of that immaculate detail is also carried over for directions. Maps now offer drivers incredible detail for turn lanes, for crosswalk and even bike lanes. You'll even be able to see street level perspectives as you approach complex intersections. And driving incidents and traffic accidents are better than before. Again, I feel like Apple is really trying to get the competition, for example, like apps such as Waze, out of the way and out of the competition. And a feature I thought was really cool is the immersive walking instructions. I remember being in Australia back before Rona happened, and getting out of a train station was a hot mess. The directions weren't able to quickly analyze and know where you're going. So you'd get out of a transit station, you had to catch one to the next left, but your directions always lagged and never really knew where you were. It kind of just spin around. I know a lot of people know what I'm talking about. So now, thanks to the power of augmented reality, once you get out of a train station, you can pull up your camera, pan around, and the iPhone will be able to intelligently detect street names and buildings and quickly get you back to where you need to go with some very precise directions. And with that comes new transit features. So public transit integration is a lot better here. And it'll show you nearby train stations and transit times, and lets you pin your favorite routes right at the top for quick and easy access. Safari also got a minor uplift, and it's pretty much all aesthetic. There's a new tab bar design that basically just makes everything look a lot cleaner. You'll have tab groups as well. That way you're able to categorize all your tabs over to the side into categories that make sense. i.e., let's just say you're planning your next vacation trip. You'll be able to open multiple tabs while you're looking for your flight, your hotel, and maybe some excursions, and categorize them all in one tab group. And then say you're doing homework at the same time, and so you might have some research tabs out there on Google, Wikipedia, and maybe you're listening to YouTube at the same time, so you'll be able to categorize everything. And thanks to the power of the chipset found inside some of these systems, namely the M1, everything is very fast and it's very fluid. And now extensions are featured on iPadOS and iOS, and by extensions, I mean stuff like Grammarly or Honey, which I think is really cool. Before, these were only obviously available on macOS, but now having these on iOS and even iPadOS is a big game changer. I'm always down for saving some money with my Honey extension. I mean, come on, everyone likes saving money. Now, moving on to one of my favorite in-house apps, we have some nice tweaks and updates to the Wallet app. Now, being a millennial, for me, using Apple Pay is a godsend. That way, even if I leave my house for a quick run to the store without my wallet or debit or credit cards, Apple Pay comes and saves the day. Well, now you'll be able to load all the information off of your state ID or driver's license straight into Apple Pay in participating countries. And you'll be able to pull up that information in a flyer for, say, whenever you're traveling through TSA, or in the future at retailers or venues. I know Apple Pay is a huge privacy concern for many, and many of you would never dream of loading your driver's license information into Apple Pay, and that's completely fine. Another cool modification is for those who have a smart home. Your phone now becomes your keys for your everyday. For those that have a smartphone and have the hardware to enable this, You'll now be able to use your iPhone to unlock your home, your garage, even your hotel room. This is a feature that will slowly start to be rolled out. I think the biggest use case for this is definitely checking into hotel rooms. It basically eliminates the need of talking to a human. In the future, you'll be able to set your reservations for companies such as Hilton Hotels and avoid complete interaction with any human being. Your phone will become your key and you'll be able to unlock your hotel room just like that. I think that's pretty cool. But one of the biggest features touted, and one that I think is going to be so useful for many students all around the globe, is going to be live text. Now, students aren't going to be the only ones to be able to take advantage of this new technology. Live text intelligently unlocks rich and useful information in images. So you can make a call, send an email, open up a link, or call a restaurant directly just straight off of a photograph using live text. Apple used the example of someone taking a photograph with a restaurant in the background, and that restaurant happened to have their phone number on a large sign outside the building. Well, with live text, the system will be able to intelligently create a link for you. That way you can call them up directly and set up a reservation or take some carryout. So really the best way to use it is just to pull out your camera and say your professor just finished writing a bunch of notes on the board. Just pan your camera over to the whiteboard and live text will be able to copy and paste that straight into your notes. I don't know how accurate it'll be, especially with some people's handwriting. I don't know, especially with doctors' handwritings, for example, but we'll just have to wait and see. But another fantastic feature of live text is going to be live text translation, and it's available in 7 languages. It's going to be English, Chinese, French, Italian, German, Portuguese, and Spanish. And with system-wide translation, all you have to do is simply tap and it translates. Photos see some marginal tweaks and upgrades that I find pretty gimmicky, so you'll have interactive memories with a new look. If you happen to go on a trip, the system will be able to make a nice collage and play a song it deems fit and appropriate for the scenery. Apparently the songs are catered to you, but I'm not sure how well Apple will be able to implement a Slipknot song into a collage. Hey, who knows? We're now also going to see a ton of new features and updates to the Health app. Now, Apple's a company alongside the Apple Watch who are really trying to prioritize people's health, and now you're able to use Health Family Sharing. For those that grant you permission, say for example your mom or maybe your son or daughter, you'll be able to share directly with them all of your recent activity and health habits, which leads me on to health trends. With trends, it's going to use the gyroscopes and sensors found inside the iPhone to be able to pick up on patterns such as your blood glucose, your walking patterns, your weight, and your fitness activity. This is a good thing. This could help prevent some future diseases or underlying conditions that later on in life might become a problem. Being a millennial, again, some of us don't really take our health seriously, but it's very important. And I think with all the sensors and gyroscopes and just all the technology found inside the iPhone, it's crazy how just a difference in your walking pace could indicate some future problems. But all of that ties into privacy, and privacy was at the forefront of this WWDC. Lately, Apple has been cracking down on a lot of big tech names, namely Facebook, for tracking just about every facet of what you do on the internet, and I personally think that's not okay. According to Apple's belief, they believe privacy is a fundamental human right, and I would agree. So now there are some new implementations to privacy so that app developers, companies, and other sorts of malicious merchants aren't able to track you down to every single move that you make on the internet. For example, you'll have an app privacy report now, where you can see how apps are using the permissions you've granted them and basically just check up on them and make sure they're not crossing the line. It even goes as far as into the Mail app. So now you'll have mail privacy protection. You know, it's crazy. Apple mentioned that some mail senders have certain pixels, very, very tiny pixels embedded into the email that are able to detect if you've opened their email and for how long. These are just many, many ways that Apple has improved upon so that those people, those individuals, and those companies and those merchants aren't able to really track you down the way that they would like. For them, it's great because then they can notice your patterns. They can notice your shopping patterns. They can notice what kind of websites you visit. Or they could even go as far as collecting data and then that way pushing ads that they find relevant to you. Well, what if you don't want to be tracked like that? This is where I think Apple sets itself apart from the competition, and I'm all up for privacy. iCloud also sees some minor improvements that I find a bit confusing. So this is a new tier of subscription plan called iCloud Plus. but it sort of just replaces the existing iCloud for the same price and adds a few bit of new features. With iCloud Plus, you get everything you already love about iCloud and now features some new important features such as iCloud Private Relay, Hide My Email, and Extended HomeKit secure video support. iCloud Private Relay was kind of vague. Basically, you'll just be able to browse the web with more privacy, although Apple Safari is already pretty secure. I know a lot of you guys have heard the rumors that iPhones, Macs, or whatever, any Apple product can't get a virus, and that's not entirely true. They can, it's just they're way better at blocking out certain viruses and malicious Trojans, for example. So with iCloud Private Relay, from my understanding, is it's just a better way to privately hide all of your tracking that you're doing on the internet. It ensures that the incoming and outgoing traffic from what you're doing on the internet is completely encrypted. And it uses 2 separate internet relays so that no one is able to identify your IP address, which is the main point about this. Your location and browsing history is better protected now. That way no one can construct a detailed profile of what kind of person you are on the internet. Hide My Email is another great useful tool. How many of you guys' email box is bombarded with notifications, coupons, or other newsletters from companies you quite frankly don't care about? This is why, sadly, one of my email addresses sadly got virtual AIDS, and now I just kind of use it to take the L every time I want a quick coupon, while also having a new mailbox dedicated to professional emails and for business uses as well. Now, with Hide My Email, it'll instantly generate a unique and random email address every time you're signing up to a company's coupons or newsletters. And that random unique email will then forward all your correspondence to your actual mailbox. That way your actual email is never exposed. Hide My Email is built into Safari, Mail, and iCloud settings. There's so many more improvements to iOS, including improvements to Notes, to the widgets, to the Find My Network, to Apple ID, to Siri. It's just a lot to cover, but these were the main points that I think I'm going to find the most useful. Now, we set over to iPadOS 15, and oh my goodness, this was a huge letdown. For those of you guys that saw my iPad 12.9-inch M1 review, a lot of you guys will know my criticism of the iPad and iPadOS. The iPad Pro is supposed to be this hybrid product that combines both the functionality of an actual laptop and of course the usefulness of a touchscreen like an iPhone. So think mixing a MacBook and an iPhone together. And yet, iPadOS is simply, at least in my opinion, iOS on steroids. And I was praying that iPadOS 15 was going to come in and save the day for the M1 12.9-inch iPad, but that never happened. In essence, all we really got were improvements to the multitasking capabilities of the iPad Pro and some cool widgets, and that's about it. No, I'm kidding. There's a lot more, but really this was a huge missed opportunity. Multitasking is now a lot easier, especially on the bigger displays. You'd expect this. And now with the introduction of the M1 chip, multitasking is now more fluid than ever. And now you'll be able to include a third center window, and all of this happens and runs very smoothly actually. There's also a new shelf where you'll be able to view all your open windows at once. Think about the shelf like a dock on macOS. You'll be able to quickly open up suspended apps or even close them right there from the shelf. The app switcher now enables you to do split screen very easily. All you'll have to do is hover one open app and now drag it onto the other and you have a split screen view. And for those who do have the supported Magic Keyboard, there are now some new keyboard shortcuts. Again, nothing major. Widgets are now much more customized on the iPad, but again, I wish there were more to it. What I wanted to see were full desktop versions of Pro applications such as Final Cut Pro or Logic Pro, but sadly, once again, we don't see that. So really, as I see it, iPadOS is basically just a small uplift and makeover to an already existing software that lacks severely in practicality, especially with all that power under the hood. Sure, everything looks a lot better, everything is a lot easier to do split screen view, but yet they're missing the point of the iPad Pro. No one wants to spend upwards of $1,500 just for some new widgets, some new keyboard shortcuts. Oh, and now there's new quick notes, and notes are much more improved. So now if you want to jot down a quick note, all you have to do is with a supported Apple Pencil, just tap at the bottom right and it'll open up a quick note. And just as easily as you popped out that quick note, you can swipe it right back away and view that note later on. And aside from that, most of the features that were presented for iOS 15 are also carried onto iPadOS 15, such as SharePlay. iOS and iPadOS tend to share a lot of those features, so really there's nothing big that distinguishes iPadOS from iOS 15 still in 2021. It's kind of like Apple needs to figure out exactly the future of the iPad, because as it still stands, the M1 chip found inside the new iPad Pros are still not taking advantage of its fullest potential, and it's sad. And finally, the announcement I was most hyped for, the newest iteration of macOS, this time being dubbed macOS Monterey. I use a Mac literally every day, so having improvements and better functionality to the macOS software is always a plus. macOS Monterey also gets the same treatment in terms of SharePlay. So just like iPadOS and iOS 15, SharePlay is also available across all your Mac devices. That way you'll be able to FaceTime with your loved ones and share the content that's most relevant to both of you guys and basically just enjoy each other's company without y'all being physically present or being close to each other. The same Safari improvements, including the new tabs, is also carried over onto macOS, but I personally think that it'll be more useful and look cleaner on that bigger Mac display versus the iPad or iOS. SharePlay, Focus, and Quick Notes are just some of the features that were previously presented for iPadOS and iOS that also get carried over now onto macOS Monterey. But the biggest feature, and one of the features that I'm most hyped for, is universal control. Now, being someone that owns several Mac products as well as several iPads and of course my iPhone, universal control is great. Apple demoed it on stage and it's one of the coolest features I have seen in quite a long time. Here, picture this. Let's say you have a MacBook Air and you also have the new iPad Pro 12.9 inch. What you can do is set each device side by side, and with the magic trackpad located on your MacBook Air, you'll actually be able to move the cursor over to the side of your MacBook screen, and then it'll get carried over onto the iPad Pro. Yes, the iPad Pros do feature a cursor as well. If you haven't seen my video on the Magic Keyboard, make sure you click that card at the top right. That way you can see all the functionality and practicality of having that Magic Keyboard. In essence, it becomes a literal laptop. I just find it so fascinating how that singular Magic Keyboard and Magic Trackpad on your MacBook Air will swiftly transition over to your iPad screen. That way your workload is really cohesive and it's just so cool. You have basically a second monitor to keep working, and you can even add in a third one. Apple demoed also with the new M1 iMacs having 3 screens, and you'll be able to use your MacBook Air's trackpad to transition from moving around on the actual MacBook Air over to the iPad Pro, and then again all the way to the left to the iMac 24-inch. There is no setup needed. It happens seamlessly and automatically. Just make sure you have your devices updated to either iOS 15, iPadOS 15, or macOS Monterey, and you're ready to rock and roll. Another feature that I'm glad is finally present on Macs is AirPlay. So a lot of the times I'll be watching YouTube videos and I might want to AirPlay something onto my Apple TV, something many people do. It's one of the reasons Apple's walled gardens are so effective. Every single Apple device just works in harmony so easily. And now you'll finally be able to AirPlay that same content that you would onto your Apple TV over to your Mac display. So whether you just want to AirPlay some of the newest tracks for punchier bass on your iMac speakers versus your iPhone speakers, you can do so. If you're watching a show on Apple TV on your iPad, you can then AirPlay it directly onto your Mac and view it there. And all the great privacy features that were touted with iOS and iPadOS are obviously going to be transitioned over to macOS. That way, no matter what you're doing on the internet, your privacy is always at the forefront. Oh wait, hold on. I said finally about macOS and completely forgot about WatchOS8. The Apple Watch is slowly becoming a huge part in determining people's health. For example, the Apple Watch now has a blood oxygen monitor. The Series 4 debuted with an EKG or an ECG, so it's pretty apparent that health is at the forefront of the Apple Watch. So a lot of those health features are what's going to be new on watchOS. We also have some cool improvements to some aesthetics found on watchOS. For example, photos. So now some of your most favorite portrait shots of your favorite people, or hey, even a selfie of yourself, will now come to life on a new Portrait watch face. It features a dynamic multi-layered effect on top of your portrait picture. That way your subject seems to come to life and is a really neat effect. So if you happen to be simping over your boyfriend or girlfriend, you'll be able to, just at the flick of a wrist, see them in a nice and lively fashion, and it really makes it seem like they're right there next to you. New memories across photos are now served daily, similar to like on the iPhone. So now your most important memories are now going to come to life and jump at you right on your wrist. Now, not always are memories a good thing. Sometimes it shows something embarrassing from the past that you may not want to see, but it's still there. And now, viewing your pictures on the Apple Watch is now a richer, more dynamic feel, although I'm not really sure how many people want to view pictures on a 44mm screen or 40mm screen. It's just too small in my opinion. Might as well just do it on your iPhone. A lot of the improvements found on iOS pertaining to Apple Pay and home devices are also carried over here. So you'll be able to store your information, say on your ID, straight onto your Apple Watch, or unlock your house similar to how you'll be able to unlock your smartphone using your iPhone, only now you'll be able to do it with the Apple Watch too. Composing messages as well is now going to be a lot easier. You'll actually be able to use your Apple Watch sort of like a trackpad to be able to edit text through dictation, or if you just want to scribble on it as well. Small improvements that over the long run make a big difference. And now it seems like sleep tracking capabilities are becoming more and more of an importance for Apple, as it is for us. A lot of us don't get an adequate amount of sleep, and my sleep schedule is literally all over the place. Sometimes I'll go to sleep at 3 in the morning, other times at 11:30. So it's really nice to keep a log on your sleeping patterns, that way you can adjust accordingly. I know I need it. And now there's 2 new exercises that are now going to be featured on the Apple Watch. As many of you know, there's a ton of exercises that track your performance straight on your wrist, such as traditional strength training, swimming, an indoor run or an outdoor run, and now we feature Tai Chi, which is an ancient form of Chinese martial arts, as well as a new stretching exercise. And now Apple Fitness Plus is getting a brand new instructor to freshen things up a little bit. So now that means new workouts, and now you have Artist Spotlight. That way you have a curated playlist from some of your top favorite artists, such as Lady Gaga, Keith Urban, Alicia Keys, and Jennifer Lopez. Aside from that, all of the other features that I mentioned previously for iOS, such as Focus, also are carried now over to the Apple Watch. And really guys, that's it. Nothing revolutionary, but small tweaks and improvements here and there that over the long run, like I said, make a big difference. A lot of these new improvements, especially the privacy improvements, are very welcome on my end. I just feel that the event was a little lackluster, as we were expecting a lot more. We were expecting a fireworks show and got let down with something not so stellar. Namely due to the fact that new hardware wasn't announced. A lot, and I mean a lot of people were let down that they didn't see their beloved 14-inch and 16-inch MacBook get a redesign. But hey, that just means that Apple is working diligently and will eventually be released when the time comes. I was half expecting for AirPods to get a redesign as well when they started mentioning AirPods during WWDC. But as it turns out, the AirPods Pro and the AirPods Max get a lot of that lossless audio and Dolby Atmos sound that Apple was touting, including spatial audio as well. If you guys want to see a detailed video on all of these new improvements to audio, just let me know in the comments below and I'll be more than happy to go over that in detail. One of the cool new features that the AirPods Pro and AirPods Max do get is some of the same capabilities as do AirTags. They in essence become AirTags in the event that you were to lose them. So similar to the U1 chip found on the AirTags, if you do happen to misplace them, you can locate them on the Find My network and you can get step-by-step directions just like you would on an AirTag to find them. And you can even enable notifications for whenever you're separated from, say, your AirPods Pro. Say you left them in the locker room at the gym, you're walking out the door or going to your car, and you happen to realize that your AirPods are misplaced. Well, don't worry. Your iPhone should notify you after you walk away a reasonable distance away from your AirPods and let you know that you have left them back and that you should probably go back for them. But aside from that, that's it, guys. No hardware, a ton of improvements to iOS, including privacy, a new focus mode, improved features over on FaceTime and iMessage. iPadOS was extremely lackluster in my opinion. MacOS Monterey was really cool, especially with that universal control, and WatchOS gets a plethora of health features. But guys, I want to know what you guys think. I know there was so much to talk about. And a lot of the times, Apple flat out doesn't even mention some of these improvements. They're just small Easter eggs that they leave us to figure out. But in any case, these are solid improvements and I'm still excited for the new iteration of iOS, iPadOS, I guess, and macOS and as well as watchOS. Guys, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. If you want to see more face-to-face videos just like this, just let me know. You guys probably see the band wall behind me. I'm working really hard on the new iPad battery drain test for the M1 iPads, as well as a full showcase of my 250 plus OEM band collection. That's been it for me, guys. I can't wait to catch you all in my next video. Peace!